Hi, I'm writer-director Jason Byrne. Jay Byrne is what I go by on my movies. Within the past couple of years, I was involved in a movie called You Better Watch Out. Now, you've heard us, if you listen to the podcasts or if you keep up with Roadkill Entertainment, you've heard us talking about You Better Watch Out quite a bit. I also made a movie called Hometown and a documentary called The Final Episode. However, we've been trying to get this movie out there. We've been trying to get people to watch it. There has been a handful of people that have seen it. We've screened it at a film festival, but we decided, you know what? We just want people to see this movie. And we want you, the fans, anybody who's interested in watching it, to be able to see it. So, at least for the foreseeable future, until January 1st, You Better Watch Out is available to watch for free on the YouTube channel, the Roadkill Entertainment YouTube channel. Easiest way to find it, if you want to check out You Better Watch Out, and this is free, no subscription, no nothing required to watch this movie. You can go on YouTube, you can watch it. If you have a Roku device, literally all you need to type into the Roku device, the search bar for your YouTube app on the Roku device is Roadkill Entertainment, You Better Watch Out. So it's REYBWO. So REYBWO. Just put that into the little search bar, and you're all set. And you can watch You Better Watch Out for free. If you're on a regular computer, you can go to YouTube. Just put the little hashtag symbol and REYBWO, and you can watch You Better Watch Out for free. You can watch the whole movie. It's the same exact movie that we've sold, that people have gotten their hands on. Nothing different, nothing changed about the movie whatsoever. So please check out our movie and write to us. Leave comments on our page. Let us know what you think of the movie, because we just want people to see our film. You can also see Hometown, The Final Episode, and an old anthology I made called VHS. Basically, everything that's available through Roadkill Entertainment is for free to watch on our YouTube channel right now. I'm not sure how long that's going to stay there. Hometown, VHS, and the Final Episode are probably going to stay there permanently, so you can check those out at your own leisure. You Better Watch Out may only be there until January 1st. We haven't really discussed that. So from Michael Welch and myself, we put a lot of love and a lot of heart into this movie, and we love it, and we hope our fans of ours love it. So please, check out You Better Watch Out, free on YouTube. Just type in REYBWO into the search engine, and it should come right up. Or you can go to the Roadkill Entertainment page on YouTube. So please check out our movie and let us know what you think. Thanks. Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Roadkill Entertainment's Video Village podcast. I'm Jay Byrne. I'm here with my buddy
Michael Welch.
Again, and Mike's back, which is good, because I always think the episodes are more interesting when it's the two of us anyway. But we've got a pretty cool topic today, but I want to start this off with we've talked about it before. Mike does like a convention. He volunteers for Rock and Shock, and he works there and stuff. I'm gonna let him take that, and I just want to get like a convention report about the Rock and Shock 2014 convention.
Yeah. It was the 11th show. I think it was my 8th as a volunteer, and I got the promotion this year. If any of you have heard the former convention podcast that we did. So I was now in charge of all the volunteers, which was awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of preparation work going into it, to where you got to the point where you're like, oh man, this is it was very daunting and very stressful because I work a full-time job too, so it was basically 2 full-time jobs
You were pretty beat for about 2 months there.
Yeah.
Like we kept trying to organize things, and it was just kind of like I'm like Mike's out of it. He's like
Yeah.
he's constantly busy.
I was going. I mean, it's like when we make a movie. It's like that's what you're doing. You're working and you're making a movie, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing, but
No.
it was definitely a lot going on. So it was good when we got into the show, and by the end of the show, it was worth it. Like the show was great.
Yeah.
It
It looks like it was a pretty damn good show this year. I'm actually was kind of bummed that I couldn't go because I'm like, this seems like it was one of the better shows for the past couple of years.
right. Both musically and and the show itself was.
You
really
didn't get
good.
to see King Diamond.
I did not get to see King Diamond because I was working.
That show looks so great. I was obsessed with watching clips of King Diamond's tour for like a week after that.
I did get to see some of the stuff. Like one of the things I wanted to see was Doyle from Misfits and everything. All the musical guests that were there signing autographs on Friday night, they did what they called the Rocking Dead, and they played a one-off set of Misfits songs.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was Doyle on guitar. His singer right now, Alex Story, who's also in Cancer Slug, he was on vocals. They brought him in to do vocals, and a bunch of other guys. Wednesday 13 was there. Guys from Faster Pussycat. A bunch of people were there.
Cool.
And I'm a big Doyle fan, and so it was cool. And I wanted to see that show, but I didn't know. I didn't know what I get to see music wise because the job comes first.
Right.
So.
Plus, the shows run kind of late, and if you're busy all day,
right.
you're probably pretty beat by like 11 o'clock at night. Like,
well, not
some
really.
of the well, really? Wow,
there was a lot of adrenaline going.
Okay, good.
But like time wise, it was tough. Yeah. So, luckily, on Friday, the first day of the show, before the show started, it started at 5. I had to go up to the club, up to the music hall, the Palladium, to have a meeting and get signs and stuff like that to hang. And they had they were doing the sound check when I walked up, the Rocking Dead guys.
Oh, cool.
And my boss for the show, Gina, she was running a little behind because she was dealing with 1,000 things, and she's a workhorse. So I looked at I said, this is my opportunity. So I left the office and I just went and watched the sound check for a few songs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, if I don't get to see it, I can see it now.
You're getting something, yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool, watching because it was their only time to sound check. It was their only time to play these songs together. So they went for it. Like, it wasn't just lazy sound check, and they were going for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is I'm getting a full show, except Doyle wasn't in his paint. So that was really cool. That was like one of those little bonuses. And we were there early Friday. Actually, I was there Thursday helping out and doing stuff. Friday we helped the vendors load in, and then the show started, and all my volunteers got there. I had already assigned them jobs. I'm really anal with planning.
Yeah, right.
So I made a spreadsheet.
Now, you didn't have a guest because you were overall supervisor, so to speak.
Yeah, I walked many miles that weekend. I ran around, because you got to put out fires, and I had to make sure all the guests were taken care of, all the volunteers with the guests were doing their job and they were taken care of. I had to go outside the hall to where we were selling the photo ops. I had to make sure that was set.
Right.
I had to go upstairs to where the photo ops were, make sure that was set. I had to make announcements on the PA. I had to play music. There was a lot going on. Play CDs. I'm not a musician. But anyway, it was great, and interactions with people. That was one of the things as a volunteer. Like, that's one of the really special parts is the interactions that you don't get as as a fan going up to the table. You get to see them a little bit differently, because even when you see them at the table, they might be cool as shit, but at the same time they're on. They gotta
it's
be
their
on.
job. It's at that moment. It's work.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. It's just how you are. It's how you have to be. But then when you get to see them kind of off the clock.
Any good guest stories? Like any this year? Like that you got to talk to anybody cool or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the show was seeing convention friends.
Yeah.
Like Joe Netter and Sarah.
Oh, Sarah French.
Sarah
right.
French, his girlfriend. I started seeing them, following them as fans, and now we're friends. And it's not like, a lot of times you think you're friends with somebody and like they take it a little too far because we're friends on Facebook, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, like these are people that now I can hang out with and, and enjoy
people.
Conversation with. Yeah.
They've gone from like words on a screen to real people.
Right. Right. And there were a lot of interactions like that. Like when I walked up to the Palladium one night after the show, Nick Principe was there, came up behind me and like almost strangled me to death. Just because he was trying to like give me a love tap, and he's 6'7" or whatever, and it's like a lot of great personal things like that.
And Nick Principe is most known for Chrome Skull. I mean he's a director as well. He's done some of his own work.
Yeah, now. He does some short films, and he just American Muscle just came out. That's his first like.
Actually, it's funny. Katie pointed that out the other day. We were in Walmart, and she goes, "Hey, American Muscle." I'm like, "What's American Muscle?" She goes, "That's the Nick Principe movie." I'm like, "Oh, it is."
Yeah,
oh, cool.
Yeah, he's on the cover. He's the star. That's
Have you
really
seen
great
it? Is it
him.
any good?
I bought it, but I haven't watched it yet.
You haven't watched it?
Yeah. Because I spent all of October doing only horror movies.
I did too, and I kind of like. I was trying. I was getting a little burnt out after a while because I'm like, I watch horror movies all the time anyway.
Right.
So it's like I was almost like I want to watch a comedy.
Right.
I was kind of getting like. But go ahead.
Friday was a great start. I was up like 20 hours a day each day, but I didn't feel it. Like, because that's how good the show was, and that's how I'm really geared towards this type of work.
Right.
Definitely. I had a ball. 4 hours of sleep. Okay, great. Then Saturday was the long day, but it was also a really good day. I had a lot of good interactions with Jeffrey Combs.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He was great. I gave him a Edgar Allan Poe keychain because he was doing that Poe show on Halloween that I couldn't go to, but whatever.
Oh, the Nevermore thing that he does? Yeah.
He did Nevermore, yeah. But he, because he's a really intelligent guy.
Now, who was your key guests this year? I know you usually have like the big one. Like I think you told me this, but I don't remember.
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif was the big guy.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw? Okay, good. I can ask you this question. This
Yeah.
is a really good question. I see these pictures with everyone with a Chucky prop.
Yeah.
Did you actually get to handle the Chucky prop? Did you actually see it?
Yeah.
Was it heavy? Was it kind of cool?
Yeah,
was it
it's like, and Gina had told me before I saw it, and she was so right that when you see this, it's a real deal.
I saw the picture online that like Bob Mendel and stuff, our friend Bob posted, and everybody with the Chucky doll, and I'm like, that's got to be a movie prop because that's a really good looking Chucky doll.
Yeah, it's not an action figure. It's not there's no seams. There's no joints that'll move. It's the real fucking deal. It's
now is he does his legs move or is he in that position like the sitting because it was sitting?
He's pretty much. I mean, you can move him to some degree. But the only times I saw him, he was in that position.
They said it was from Curse of Chucky? It was from the last movie?
Yeah,
okay.
It was.
Right.
Yeah. Because Fiona actually brought it. Fiona owns it, as far as my understanding. Fiona Dourif, his daughter.
His daughter, okay.
Who was in that film.
Yeah.
And, she was the one who, got it to us. And he comes in his own shipping crate.
I saw the pictures of the crate, yeah.
Yep. And it's like that's the first time I saw him is they opened the crate to show me Chucky, and I was like, oh, I mean, like it's creepy just to look in and see him in there
and see an actual Chucky. Yeah, I mean, not like a crapo version. Like
right.
This is Chucky. Like
right, he's so lifelike, and and he's photogenic. Like you look at those pictures from the photo ops. And he looks like he's looking at you.
Yeah, he does. It's really cool.
Yeah, like that's how somebody sculpted that and made it for a film and not like the action figure aisle.
Right. Because the attention to detail is insane. Like actually, it looked like to me when I looked at it, it could have either been a Bride of Chucky or a Curse of Chucky because I wasn't sure. I'm like, is this from Bride or is it like? But Bride he was a little more scarred up. I think he's less scarred in the Curse of Chucky.
Yeah. Chucky was great, and Brad was really cool too. It was his only. He doesn't do a lot of shows, so it was great to get him to do this show. It was his only East Coast appearance. He did one West Coast show and one East Coast show this whole year.
Oh wow!
And so we had him for the East Coast show, and he was a really good guy. Roddy Piper was awesome. He's always great. He's always very humble, very respectful. You meet him, he asks you what your name is.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. you take a picture with him. He's like, "Go get that developed. I'll sign it for you." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool."
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. Music-wise on Saturday, my biggest thing was Life of Agony, which they got back together, and after so many years, it was like, I don't know. God, it's been like 20 years since I got into them in like 93.
Wow, really? Huh.
And they broke up for a really long time. And then, the singer Keith Caputo, became Mina Caputo. And I'm sure a lot of people were there just to see, oh, he's a girl now and whatever. Like, who cares, man? The music was still amazing. And
That's
it didn't.
Interesting.
I
didn't know that part of the story. I actually did not know that.
Oh yeah, he had a sex change.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, but it didn't alter her vocals at all. Because she has a really distinctive voice, and that's the kind of thing. Like well, did she take hormones? Is it going to change her voice? Whatever. And no, still got the pipes. It was an amazing show.
Cool.
And then Guar followed them. And, it's the first Guar tour without Odorous.
Without Odorous, yeah.
So, a lot of people are like, I don't know. But it was mostly supportive. It was very busy.
And they do a whole, I don't know, funeral thing for him, almost like a tribute thing to him on stage, right?
Yeah.
Where they switch characters and stuff.
The theme of the tour was to find Odorous because he was missing. And to also find a replacement singer.
Which ends up being the Volvatron, right? And somebody else. It's two of them, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Blothar, who used to be Beefcake.
The guitar player guy, right? The Beefcake guy. Yeah.
And he left the band for a while. Whatever. He came back for this. And there was a funny interaction between Blothar and the new Beefcake because you were kind of making fun of each other.
That's
kind of
cool.
Thing. Like, I used to be you before you were you. Whatever. But before they get to that point where Blothar comes out in Volvatron. Like all the other members try their shot and they'll sing a song with them, and some of them are terrible, kind of on purpose, and it's part of the show. And then Volvatron comes out, and Volvatron, for those of you who don't know, is a female singer. Yeah,
right.
And and she sprays blood from her nipples,
which is hilarious.
Which is amazing, yes. And I have a big crush on Volvatron.
Now, does she do the classic songs? Who Sick of You and shit? Was it her singing it? Sick of You? Or was that the Beefcake guy?
It's Blothar does a lot more singing.
Okay.
And Volvatron, she did like one song I think by herself, but mostly it was them two working off each other, or Blothar by himself. There were a lot of songs with him by himself.
Like
singing.
Slaughter and stuff was probably the guy doing that one, right?
Yeah. And they did a great cover of West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys.
Oh wow!
It was amazing. I actually put it on my Facebook.
Wow.
It was great. Like, it was so damn good. Like, I wish the Pet Shop Boys sounded like that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, it was incredible. Their stage show was a little toned down. They still did all the stuff, but they didn't do the religious stuff. They didn't do like a lot of like the sexual stuff.
Right.
They did a lot of monster based stuff.
Okay.
And they ended up they made a lot of fun of Odorous. Because that's what Guar does.
That's what Guar does, yeah. So they're not going to change what it is.
Yeah, like they brought out a big needle because he died of a heroin overdose. So they brought out a big needle and they were like, "This is Odorous," and so they pulled no punches.
I love that it's they don't care about the bad taste and they just go with it. Well, that's what
Odorous would have done.
I don't think Dave Brockie would expect that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what he would expect from them.
Right, and they also did do a real tribute to him near the end of the show, and that was brings a tear to your eye.
Right, yeah. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds like it was a good show.
Yeah, it was a really good show. So that was Saturday, and then you go to the after party thing, and that's really fun. And Sunday comes and nobody gets any sleep, and that's fine because I didn't need it. And Sunday was the early day, and we finished up Sunday. We cruised through Sunday. I barely got to see anybody. Because you're just working.
Yeah, right.
And I spent a lot of time in the back, just taking care of things, because a lot of the celebs, they had to leave right at the end of the show because they had to catch a flight, whatever.
Right.
So you have to like, go over all their itinerary with them and stuff like that and make sure that's done. Here's a story from Sunday. John Ratzenberger.
Yeah.
Pixar.
Yeah.
Legendary Pixar of a guy.
Cliff
from Cheers. I was excited to meet him. I'm a big fan of John Ratzenberger. Motel Hell,
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't really think he's cut out for the convention scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Just didn't...
He didn't really connect. He didn't really get it, I don't think. He was a nice guy. He was a polite guy. He wore a suit every day. But he just I don't think he understood the whole fan thing because he doesn't really do a lot of shows. He was pretty expensive and
wow.
Yeah, he anyway, so
just didn't work for it. It's just not his thing.
he had a Q&A on Sunday.
Yeah.
And about 15 minutes before the Q&A, which is at noon, we were given a DVD to play to introduce him. Not by John, but by his representation. He's like, make sure to play this before John comes out. And I said, well, what the fuck? That room, the Q&A room, is not equipped for audio.
Right, what are you going to play it on? Because that's just a table with, like, mics. Like, there's no video projection unit or anything.
The Q&A room is a chunk of the hallway that is set up with curtains and chairs and whatever. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do now? That was the type of difficulties that you get, and like, well, you can't say no to the celebrity, so you got to figure this shit out. So I'm all MacGyvering and whatever, and then I had a support system too. I wasn't the only one. If I didn't know something, I talked to Gina and Leah was there, and she works the show every year, and they know more than I do, so they got it arranged. Got a big ass TV got rolled in, like that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
So I'm at the door, waiting for the signal to start the sizzle reel. And I guess the person who was supposed to moderate the panel, he wasn't very nice to her, and she's my friend, so I wasn't very happy about that. But whatever, what can you do?
Yeah.
So I get the signal, start the reel. I relay that message, and they start the thing. The manager brings John over, and then he goes back to the table. And I had a volunteer at the table. Like, why do you need to be at the table? So I have to take over now. I just take it upon myself. I introduce myself. I say, all right, Mr. Ratzenberger, I'm going to, your reel's playing.
Yeah.
Then they're going to announce you. You get the big announcement, and then I'll show you in. And he goes, well, what if I want to go watch the reel? I mean, you don't know what your own sizzle reel looks like? In my head. Wow. I said, okay, if you want to walk in, cool, let's walk in and watch your sizzle reel. So all of the build-up of announcing him is gone.
Because he's standing there.
Everybody saw him walk in the side door, and he's watching his reel. So, like, why did we go through all that?
That kind of stuff only really works as if you have, like, a back entrance, because then if he wants to stand in the back with people not noticing him, he can come in from the back. I mean, way that's set up, he's going to be right out in the open.
It's right on the side, yeah. So,
what did you guys run it on? Did you find a TV, a screen?
A TV with a DVD player.
That's what it was?
Yeah. It was a giant screen TV.
Just like on the table, right? Like on that bench?
It was on a rolling platform, yeah.
I was going to say, because I'm like, what the hell do you play anything on over there? It's like, that must have been weird.
Right, exactly. It was very bizarre and unnecessary, because then, he ruined his own introduction. Oh, God, Ratzenberger. I mean, again, he was a nice guy. He signed autographs to all the staff that I know of anyway.
Yeah.
I got one. He signed it to me, and he didn't know my name all weekend. But he got a list of names.
Right.
He didn't have to do that. Nobody really does that.
No, so that's nice of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. And I didn't have to pay for his autograph or anything. But the best part of the whole show came after the show was over on Sunday. Because, I said goodbye to my volunteers. I love my volunteers because they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
At least the people that I've recruited over the years. There were some other ones, like we had some college interns that didn't show up, and fuck them, and whatever. But the people who are in it and love it, they showed up for me. They worked their asses off. I couldn't have I would have had so many more headaches if they
Yeah,
weren't
right.
there and holding down the fort.
That's great.
And they were all so energetic, no matter what job. Like some of them had the job like stand here and watch this stuff, make sure nobody touches it. Like
Yeah.
we had some props and whatever. Like that's a boring job.
Yeah, it is, and it's
you know. But they did it, and they were like, "Okay, Mike, no problem." And they did it, and they never complained.
That's
they
awesome.
they were happy about it. Like I love my volunteers to death.
That's great.
I tried to take care of them as best as I could. So after the show goes, everybody leaves. They're breaking everything down. The vendors are already driving in the building and breaking their shit down. And I got invited to the after dinner, which is, any celebrities that are remaining.
Yeah.
They're going back the next day, and some of the head crew people all go to dinner.
Right.
So I'm like, at first I didn't want to go. I wanted to go, but I didn't think I belonged.
Yeah, because it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said to Gina, she's like, "You should come." I said, "I don't belong here. I'm not famous. I'm just doing my job." And she's like, "Please come to the dinner." I'm like, "Okay." All right. I don't want to say no to Gina. And I was really interested. So I'm waiting in the hotel lobby for everybody because we're all going to take shuttle buses over to a restaurant. And Derek Mears comes out. He's the first one down there besides me. And Derek kind of takes me under his wing because he remembers me. I just saw his show in LA when I went to a show there last month. And he remembered me from there in a couple of years. He's got a really good memory. And I had talked to him a bunch that weekend. So he took me under his wing. I asked him about working out and exercising and stuff, and he was amazed. I had just lost a bunch of weight over the past year, and he was amazed that I lost so much. And he was more interested in that story.
That's cool.
So he's helping me, and
right.
So we're buds now, and I'm like, okay, I got somebody to connect with.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid I was going to go to this thing and not have anybody to talk to because I'm not famous,
Well, yeah, because who do you know?
Right.
Yeah, you don't know these people, right?
And it's I don't want to stare at anybody else's conversation, as cool as it may be,
and
because I don't want to be a dick.
You don't want to be the fanboy in the bunch, right?
Yeah. So he was cool to me, and then Jeffrey Combs came down, and he was already cool with me. Andrew Divoff from Wishmaster was
cool.
there, and Derek was talking to me, and Andrew came over, so now I was cool with Andrew too.
That's cool.
And I'm like, all right, I got a little thing going. This is great.
Nice.
So we jump in the first shuttle, and it was me, Andrew, Derek, Christina Klebe.
Oh,
from Royal Zombies Halloween.
From Halloween, yeah, right.
And Ogre from Skinny Puppy.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Now I hadn't met Ogre all weekend, and I hadn't met Christina, but I had met her before.
Yeah.
She didn't. I didn't expect her to remember me. So she introduces herself to me in the van because we were sitting right next to each other, scrunched up against each other. I'm like, oh, I guess we should introduce because
right.
bodies are on top of each other, which was nice. But I didn't. And Ogre was next to her, and I didn't get to meet Ogre. And they were talking the whole time, so I'm just listening to Skinny Puppy tour stories, which are crazy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's intimidating how smart Ogre is. He's a really put together guy. He knows what the fuck's going on.
That's cool.
So we get to the restaurant, which is a fish restaurant, and I don't eat seafood.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, all right, they gotta have chicken fingers and fries. That's my standby. They've got to, no problem. But I'm going we get out, and I'm like, okay, I'm sticking near Derek because he's my buddy. He'll take care of me, you know. We walk in the restaurant. Tom Savini was actually nice to me, which he's 50-50 with everybody.
Really?
There's a lot of reports and whatever. But, he made a joke, and it was the only interaction we had, and that was fine. But everybody got there. We walked in. There were, we scoped out the open seats, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll go around this way, and Derek's probably going to sit there too. Nope. Oh, I got separated. Damn it. So now next to me is Christina, which we haven't really talked. We just shook hands.
Right.
Across from her is Ogre, who I didn't know yet. Nobody across from me. And then to my right is Ace Von Johnson from Fast Pussycat. I'm like, I don't know you at all.
Yeah, right.
And then across from him is Gina, but Gina, Gina's not gonna. Gina's there to take care of everybody, and that's what she does. And she was talking to the musicians all night. Doyle wasn't there or anything. So I'm like, shit, what the fuck? And now I'm like, I'm just gonna stare at my menu all night because I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want to be rude and butt in on conversations.
Right.
I'm not saying a word until spoken to.
Right.
These people are all different, famous. They're regular people. We know that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to, you don't want to butt in.
Right.
So I'm like, man, this is gonna be really weird. This is gonna be a rough couple hours. But then somebody toasted everybody, and we all toasted. I lifted my water up and stuff, but then Ogre turned to me and he was like, "Cheers, sir." And I said, "Okay, all right, cheers, sir."
Yeah.
And then Gina, bless her heart, she said to whoever was within earshot who I was, what I did for the show. And then Ogre liked me because I was a crew guy, and Ogre's a musician. So crew takes care of band, so he liked me, right? And then Derek was next to Ogre, so he was kind of too far away to like talk, but he said something to me because he had given me a tip or like a book to check out, and he remembered something he told me. So then that story started again, and now I'm telling Ogre and Christina about all my weight loss. And I'm like, why you guys are interested in me? This is awesome. And so now I had, between Christina and Ogre, I had conversation buddies for the rest of the night.
Well, that's cool.
Like, they involved me. They looked at me when they spoke. I wasn't just a hanger.
You weren't just the guy there.
Yeah. Like, and they were regular people. I was a regular dude. And it was amazing from then on. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we had the dinner. They didn't have chicken fingers or fries, so luckily they had a steak. The only,
well, that's not bad.
Yeah, the only non-seafood option on the whole menu was a steak. So I said, thank God. For those of you listening, I'm a really, really picky eater. So we went after dinner, which was amazing. We went back to the hotel and everything split up. But I thanked Derek for the workout tips and whatever. He's like, why don't you just come to the bar? A couple of us are going to go to the bar and hang out. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, me? And he's like, yeah, come on to the bar with us. So it was me, and now I'm with him, with Derek, Andrew Divoff, and Ogre and Christina. I'll go to the Uno's, which is attached to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I don't drink, so I got a soda.
Yeah, I'm like, and you're not a drinker, so it's weird you go hang out at a bar.
Yeah, I don't even drink caffeine, so I got a Sprite. Like Derek was picking it up the tab, and he's like, "What are you drinking? Sprite? Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm driving." That was my excuse.
Yeah, that was your excuse.
Which is true. I still had to drive home. So now we spend another couple hours just shooting the shit in the Uno's. Uno's closes, and then we go out in the lobby and hang out there. And Wednesday 13 comes over, and he bends Derek's ear for like an hour. He didn't really care that I was there. He didn't really involve me in the conversation, but whatever. He wasn't mean to me. He was just talking to Derek.
Yeah.
But that was the end of the whole show, and I'm like, that's like the greatest thing.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's just so cool. Yeah. Actually, it's cool that you got to hang out with Derek Mears and like the guy from Skinny Puppy and shit.
Yeah,
like
and
that's so cool.
Yeah, they treated me like a
right, just like another
I
person. Yeah, right. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that's my Rock and Shock report.
That's your Rock and Shock report.
Yeah.
Well, you did also, like, we don't have to get too deep into it, but you volunteered a little bit at the Rhode Island Comicon as well. You worked at a Newbury Comics table. Yeah,
correct? I worked the Newbury Comics booth.
Okay.
Because I'm not a fan of being a volunteer for Rhode Island Comicon.
Okay. But like you were there. I mean, there's a lot of crap going around about how crazy the friggin' event was. Like, from the inside, how did it seem to you? Like,
it was as crazy as reports have indicated. I mean,
really?
The whole thing was too crowded, and which is great for the show. Hey, they sold all these tickets.
Was it literally like shoulder to shoulder? Was it like that bad?
Oh
wow.
yeah. Oh yes. Wow. Especially where the celebrities were. You forget going down those aisles. It was just ridiculous. And our booth was on an end cap next to a main aisle, so we just had just the sea of people trying to get around, and like, I was standing at the end of the booth because that was my job, was to watch, make sure people weren't walking away with shit. Just standing at the edge of the booth, I was in the way because that was how many rows of people were trying to get through. And these people are in big bulky costumes,
like,
with fucking angel wings
because it's
on.
like cosplay and they all come with their freaking crazy costumes
right.
on. Yeah.
So that made it worse too, and this
must have been a bit claustrophobic, actually. Like, I don't know, I'm not super claustrophobic, but I think I almost would have gotten a little weird.
It was tight. Like, I was constantly moving out of people's way.
Yeah.
Even though they were at my booth.
Yeah.
They were walking by
right.
my booth. An 8-foot Optimus Prime comes in, and you go, well, what the fuck? That, and of course, everyone wants to take a picture. Right. So everybody's stopped for pictures, and that clogs everything else up. And I get it. That's how shows are, but God Lord.
Now, did you get to meet any celebrities at the Rhode Island Comic Con?
I met Road Warrior Animal from legendary wrestler.
Oh,
And
okay, wrestler.
He was my the Road Warriors were everything to me when I was a kid.
Cool.
Like I got into wrestling, and
Yeah.
they wore the spikes and the face paint and stuff, and they they looked like they were out of the movie. The Road
Yeah,
Warriors.
right.
They were tough, and I told it to Animal too. I was I try not to like gush to celebs, but for him, I said, hey man, I was a fat little kid who got picked on every day, and watching your stuff made me happy and think that I could be strong and
Right.
tougher one day, and and he was cool. He's like I'm really glad I could inspire you and whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was really all I had time for on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because I had to work the booth, and I had to it took way too long to get there and then get back.
Yeah.
That was like my break. So yeah, it was it was the shows, like, we didn't oversell tickets. I'm like, but capacity and how many tickets you sold. So yeah, you kind of did. And their thing was they expected people to leave. I'm like, okay, but the show opens at 10 and it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
like,
we were talking about that. Me and my wife Katie, we were the other night because we were talking about the whole weird thing. Because I wasn't there, but I saw a lot of posts about it, and I read some articles about it and stuff. And we were saying how she's like, well, how do you, like, if the venue only holds like what did they say it was, like 17,000 or something, and you sell like 20,000 tickets, like how do you not expect that to get overcrowded? Like,
right.
I guess they have like a thing where they try to figure in like, oh well, some people are going to stay for an hour, then they're going to leave, they're going to stay. But how can you can't predict that?
Nobody's gonna stay for an hour and leave,
right?
After paying that much to get in, and
And what they said, the other big thing was like that there was no, they had like bracelets or something, right? And weren't they supposed to be activated or some shit like that so that they would know if they could come in? It was like there was something about the bracelet, or is that?
No,
you don't know?
nothing.
Okay,
no.
I read something about
the
that.
The bracelets were just paper.
Oh,
yeah.
So then people weren't able to get back in if they left.
Right, because the fire marshal put a stop on entrance.
Oh, because he stopped. So you're just stuck in the line with everybody else. If you left the building, there's no re-entry at that point because the fire marshal had stopped the line.
Right.
That makes sense.
The two people running our table went out for break for lunch, and they couldn't get back in. I'm like, so workers can't get in. Like how celebrities can't get in if they go out for like a smoke break or something.
Yeah, that's
like this is not the way to do this.
That's craziness. Like, yeah, it just sounds kind of nuts. Like we had I posted a thing on Facebook about it about this was a couple years ago. I might have even talked about this before on the podcast. I don't remember.
I don't know if you have.
I don't know if I ever did, but we were invited, I guess, to screen You Better Watch Out. This was during the time period where
Hometown. It was Hometown.
Was it Hometown?
Yeah.
No, it was You Better Watch Out, wasn't it?
Mm-mm. No, Hometown. We hadn't done You Better Watch Out yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm fucking losing my mind. I thought it was You Better Watch Out. Okay. All right. Well, we were invited to show. It was Hometown then. Okay. Yeah. All right. To show Hometown, and really, I'm lost.
Because we were gonna wear our shirts, and then we had worn them at the show before, and we're like, we're not gonna wear matching shirts.
Oh, it
again.
was Hometown because that's what we gave people. We gave them copies of Hometown.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was totally wrong. I actually wrote on the Facebook page that it was You Better Watch Out. If you looked at it. Well, all right. Well, it was okay. Then invited to show Hometown. Okay. Well, I screwed that one up. We better go back and edit my posts right now. Who cares? We were invited to show one of our movies. That's all that really matters. And we were on the schedule, but what ended up happening was we showed up, and the worst thing about it is it's like they didn't have a copy of the movie, so I had to go.
Right.
Remember, I had to bring the copy of the movie because there was no copy of they didn't have a copy of the movie, so I showed up with a copy of the movie, and we showed up. It comes close to our time, and there was another filmmaker that was supposed to be showing. He had what was scheduled as a short on the schedule for 30 minutes, and it turns out that his movie was like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Like it was like, what do you say? It was like 150 hour and 50 minutes or something like that. It was literally like close to 2 hours the runtime of his movie. So we were like, and this was the close to the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they'd already had some time delays because of like equipment problems that they were having throughout the day. And then at that point, so we were like, okay, so we're gonna get to show our movie, and then the guy that was showing his movie, I don't even remember what movie it was, to be honest with you, at this point, or who the filmmaker was. They were having problems with the equipment, so he went, grabbed his laptop, plugged it into the wherever they were running the projector from, and everything like that, and took over the room. But the thing that got me about this was, which we were pushed off the schedule completely. And we actually had like 4 or 5 people outside coming to see the movie. Like we had some friends and fans who were coming to watch the movie. And we were pushed off the schedule. But like the thing that got me about it was that this whole time all this was happening, we're talking like an hour or more, not one person, organizer or anything from the convention even set foot in the room to make sure that everything was running smoothly. Right. I get the feeling they hadn't been in there all day. Right. Like that's the feeling I get. I might be wrong, but like it just seems like with the equipment problems that they've been having, I get the feeling that nobody had been in that room all day. So I mean, I was pretty pissed afterwards just because we were invited and I had to go there in the first place. Like, to be honest with you, like I go sometimes, but I probably had really no intention of even going, but I went because we had a reason to go.
So you had to pay for parking.
Yeah.
To not get your movie shown.
Yeah, we paid for parking to not get the movie shown.
Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly it.
From my end, I did work that show for them. That was the first year they did the show, and that was the only year I volunteered. Yes,
you were working that day. Yeah, you were. That's right.
I was sitting with Billy West that day and helping out.
Well, see, my memory was totally mixed up about this. Yeah.
So I had already seen, like, our showing was on Sunday, supposedly. I worked Saturday and Sunday, so all through Saturday and Sunday, I had already seen, 10 clusterfucks happen. I go, what is going on with this show? So when Sunday rolled along, I said, nope, this is my day. I'm not going through this again.
Yep.
So I actually waited in the film room, and I was trying to correspond with you because the first thing that they were supposed to show, the player didn't work, and they hooked up a laptop. Laptop didn't work. This didn't work. Nothing worked. They tried to bring an Xbox in to play it off the Xbox. That didn't work. Something was wrong. God. So then the second movie got delayed by like an hour, but they finally got that going, and that's when you showed up in that G.I. Joe documentary, which was awesome.
Which was good.
Yeah.
I liked the G.I. Joe documentary.
So they were already running an hour later than scheduled time, and then they ran full, and then it was that guy's quote-unquote short, and I don't blame the filmmaker.
I don't blame the filmmaker. Yeah, it's not his fault. However, he did really take over the room. Like, he just, like, he took charge of the room, and it was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at it as like somebody had to.
Somebody had to take charge of the room.
Nobody else was. So, but again, he had his lap. Like, we shouldn't have had to bring our own equipment.
No.
But anyway, he had a full length. So by the time we could have played our movie, it was 5 o'clock.
It was too late.
And the show ended at 5 o'clock.
And they weren't running it later or anything like that. So we were essentially screwed.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay.
Yeah.
This is how this works.
Yeah. and then I also had to pay for parking, which was supposed to be paid for me. So I didn't get paid for parking either, even though I was supposed to as a worker. So yeah, I would never work for those folks.
Yeah, that's just a friggin' fiasco, and I'll be very curious to see what happens next year.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's great that the show exists. And that, and it was actually pretty cool that they were doing these shows for a while, but I think it's gotten too big for them. I don't think they can control it. Like, they don't have the organizational thing to control this.
Yeah, they're great at getting high-profile guests, and they're really terrible at taking care of the fans and taking care of the workers.
Yeah.
And like even on their posts, they posted. I think it was this morning. They finally came out and posted about the fiasco.
Yeah.
And they said that one of the things that they wrote, which I hated, was due to many factors, including I'm paraphrasing, including the poor training of staff and volunteers and etc. Like, well, who's supposed to train them?
Yeah, they're kind of like laying it on the fucking volunteers
it's like
now.
that's your fault for not telling them what they need to do.
Yeah, that's
like,
their job. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Like, if you say poor training, you're supposed to be the trainer.
You're the trainer.
So why insult their performance if you couldn't teach them right?
Yeah, that's yes.
Like that annoyed the shit out of me.
That's just crazy. That's just, I don't know. That's a weird story. Like but I think it's funny that I totally thought it was You Better Watch Out. I forgot because I posted a whole thing about it and it says You Better Watch Out. Now I feel like I should go edit my post and but like nobody saw it anyway. So what the fuck difference does it make? But okay, I guess we've been talking for a while now, but we'll move forward here on our actual subject. And the subject of our podcast this time is with the fact that basically within the next week I have a daughter on the way, which is kind of crazy. But with that in mind, I came up with the idea. I thought, well, maybe we should talk about like horror movies. Like what do you like? If you're going to introduce your kid into horror movies, if you're a horror fan like we are, what do they start with? Like, what did we start with? What did we see growing up that were horror movies, but kid friendly in essence? And it doesn't have to be like Goosebumps or anything like that. I mean, there are there's other stuff out there, And I noticed you have an interesting little list, so I'm gonna kind of let you like lead the way a little bit with this, and I'll chime in here and there and throw some of my ideas in as well.
I'm going by when I was a kid, when we were kids, 'cause we were the same age. My introduction to horror, as a little kid, before, a little bit older, I got into other stuff. But my first knowledge of a monster were the Universal monsters.
Was it? Yeah.
But I never saw the films.
You just knew the images. You just knew
because they were iconic images, and and back then it was, they were in like little kids' storybooks and Halloween pages you'd get at school to color and stuff like that. Like they were franchises, and
even surprisingly when we were kids, not to cut you off, but when we were kids, I don't remember. It must have been an earlier era than us. Those movies were not regularly rerun on cable channel, like the UHF channels that we used to have and stuff like that. Like 64 and all. 56 was the big one. WLVI 56 for this area, but I don't remember them rerunning like Dracula and Frankenstein.
No.
Those movies weren't shown. That must have been an earlier era of creature features. Maybe like in the 70s they were shown more. Yeah. But for us in the 80s, they weren't regularly on TV. I mean, I knew what they were, but I didn't see them all the time, like listed on TV or anything. As a matter of fact, I don't think I saw a Universal Monster movie until I was like 17 years old, which is weird to think.
I was in my 20s.
Yeah, by the time I actually watched one. Yeah. Because they'd just been around, and it's one of these things where it's like, well, I should probably watch those movies because they're like key movies,
Right. Like, remember when we were tiny? We were probably like 5, and LVI had they had like the world premiere showing in Boston of Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh wow!
In 3D, and they made a big thing about it. And
I remember Creature. The only one I actually remember ever seeing as a kid on TV was Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yes. I didn't remember Dracula or Frankenstein or those movies, but I do remember Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I do remember having to get the red and blue 3D glasses from it was probably like a 7-Eleven or something like that at the time. You know what I mean?
But that shows you how infrequently you could see those movies because they made such a big deal about showing that movie.
Showing it.
Yeah.
There must have been some kind of I don't know. There must have been some kind of weird rights thing going on in the late 70s, early 80s for those Universal Monster movies or something. I don't know. But that's to me as a kid for a Universal Monster movie specifically, Creature from the Black Lagoon is the first one that I remember seeing. Yeah. And I got to tell you, of all the ones, I mean, I enjoy watching them. I actually kind of like quite a few of them now, actually. The Mummy's like my least favorite one. That one's a little dry.
Yeah.
I love Frankenstein. Frankenstein is probably my favorite one. I've actually got a new appreciation for Dracula. Even though it's a bit slow, there's just something creepy about the way that movie is made. I like The Invisible Man. That one that's what it's called, right? The Invisible Man. Yeah. That was one I liked with Claude Rains. Yeah. He was in The Invisible Man. Of course, and the best ones I thought was Bride of Frankenstein was one of the best ones, and there's another one I'm missing here. Bride of Frankenstein. And The Wolfman. I like The Wolfman.
The Wolfman's my favorite.
The Wolfman's actually one of my favorites. Yeah. That one and Frankenstein are tie. Bride Frankenstein's actually really good too.
Yeah,
that one always gets kind of like known as being like one of the better ones, and it actually is pretty damn good when you rewatch it. But I mean, but I think one of my favorite ones out of all those actually is kind of Creature from the Black Lagoon now, because I've rewatched Creature from the Black Lagoon, and watching it at home now, and actually you probably haven't got a chance to do this, but like with the 3D, the modern 3D, it's actually in 3D on the current Blu-ray that exists. Yeah. And I just stayed up one night and I shut all the lights off and I actually watched Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D. And I gotta tell you, the 3D works so fucking well. Like, it's so much better than what I remember the red and blue as kids.
Right.
I mean, it was like really good depth. There was stuff where like it's like right in your face. Like they had the depth really deep on it, like, and it works really awesome. It's kind of worth it. We should some night I should just have you come over and just watch it. We should just watch it so you can actually see it in 3D.
Great, yeah.
It's just fun to watch. I had a lot of fun watching it in 3D. I was like, wow, I get why audiences thought this was so cool back then. Now I finally can see it, you know. But yeah, so I think you were in the middle of talking about
that like the Universal Monsters, that's what we grew up on, even though we just knew them as icons.
Yeah.
So for me, the gateway into horror as a little kid was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Okay. Which I kind of remember a little bit. I'm sure I saw. I do remember of all the ones that I said they didn't really show too many of them. That was shown for some reason.
That was shown all the time.
That used to be on TV like all the time for whatever reason. Yeah.
And we would watch it all the time. My sister and myself. Yeah. My sister's 5 years older than me. Because my dad was an Abbott and Costello fan, but he was not a horror fan. And my mom was a horror fan, but not an Abbott and Costello fan. So, like, we would all watch it. And my dad would never watch horror movies with us. Yeah. But he would watch that. And when it came on, he would put it on, and, like, because he knew that I loved it, and we would, like, bond and whatever.
That's cool.
So, yeah, we watched that all the time. And that's how I first got to see these monsters. I'm like, these monsters are so cool.
Yeah, right.
You know? So, yeah.
So do you think, okay, this is an interesting, because it's interesting we started with the Universal Monsters. Do you think that's a good gateway for even now, for like kids now? Like those Universal Monsters. If you had to pick one, okay, say, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, I got a daughter coming, I don't even know what, like I said to Katie, I'm like, she's going to know horror movies from day one because that's all I friggin' watch. So it's like, I mean, I'm trying not to be watching like I Spit in Your Grave and Last House on the Left when she's roaming around at like 3 years old, but like, you know, I mean, this is the movies that I watch, so she'll be introduced to them at a very, very young age. So it's like, what, I mean, even like 3 or 4 or something like that, like, what would you show? Do you think the Universal Monster movies would hold up for a little kid? I wonder.
I mean, you know.
I guess they did back in the day, so why wouldn't they now?
They did, and, you know, they still will hold up as good films, especially because she won't know differently when you show them to her. That's
the thing I'm thinking. She'll start from that point. She won't know any better. Yeah.
Like the only thing I can think of is they might bore her.
Right. That was my thought. Like they might actually be boring to a little kid.
But
like,
that's where Abbott and Costello is different
because it's
funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point.
It's funny and a little scary, but you can handle it because it's funny. You know?
And you could actually kind of use that as a gateway. You could get the Abbott and Costello, then they'd see the monsters.
Right.
And then maybe, ooh, what's that monster? And maybe want to watch the movie with the monster in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Because I think a Dracula would bore a little kid to tears. Even though I appreciate it now, I think it would bore a little kid to tears. Maybe Bride of Frankenstein. Like the Wolfman a little bit. It's hard to judge because
Bride of Frankenstein, that's good because you know it's a love story,
and there's some comedy in it too. Like there's a little bit of comedy.
Yeah,
in that.
when they get that's true. I mean, there's a little bit of comedy in Frankenstein too.
There is,
but it
actually.
Comes late, you know. She might be bored before that.
Yeah, because that one has a certain look to it that I almost imagine would bore like a kid, like a little kid.
Right.
I mean, I probably would have been bored with it when I was a little kid, like that young. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, this isn't very visceral. You know what I mean? But all right. So what do you got here? What else do you got on this? Because you got a list. So
yeah, I do. I mean, you know,
defer to your list a little bit.
If
here.
you if you use the Universal Monsters as a template or a gateway for a small child, you could go from there and then update it a bit and go right to Monster Squad.
Monster Squad was my big one. In my head, I was like, Monster Squad is a movie that I think a kid would love.
Yeah.
I mean, I never saw it as a kid. I saw it as an adult, and I still love it as an adult.
Right.
But like, I think Monster Squad is one that would really like appeal to.
Yeah, because there's kids in it.
It was intended for
kids.
kids.
It's like
really.
yeah, it's for kids. So like right there, if they can handle the monsters, you know, especially if you go down the Abbott and Costello route because it's funny, and then Monster Squad's so funny too.
Yeah.
You know, and if they can hack that, even if they don't like it, but like they get something out of it, and you show them Monster Squad, and they're like, I can relate to these kids. You know?
Yeah, and it's flashier too. It's
Right.
there's more going on the screen. There's more of a comic booky, cartoony approach to
Right.
the subject matter. You know, it's another one that I think that which is in that same wheelhouse that I feel could work is The Gate.
Oh yeah.
Did you? I don't know if you thought of that one or not.
No.
I think The Gate could work as well. I think it's almost like you could go with movies that have kids as the main protagonist, like the main characters in the movie, dealing with these situations. The Gate almost gets a little adult at points, but I still think a kid could handle it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's not like It. You know,
No.
I wouldn't show that. You know.
Well, yeah. Although It is relatively tame, but it is scary because of the clown.
Right. 'Cause
Like, well, and I know your sister has like an obsession. Mike's sister is like freaked out of clowns.
Yeah, she
It
hates
probably
clowns.
freaked the crap out of her as a kid, right?
Yeah. I don't know why. She knows why, and she was gonna tell you guys, but she needs to tell me too. I don't even know.
You
why
don't
she's
know
afraid
what
of
her
clowns.
real reason.
I don't know what her story is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear like the stories behind like why like somebody is afraid of something. Like I wasn't really afraid of clowns as a kid. Clowns didn't freak me out. I'm like, I was a big pussy. I was afraid of horror movies as a kid. But see, that's the difference though with like me now. Like I think it's gonna be a little different because if I was like surrounded by it, like I mean, we're sitting in my living room recording this like podcast right now. Literally surrounding us is horror movie posters, lobby cards, and like toys, and I mean, it's a horror museum in this fucking room, for Christ's sake. I mean, if this is what you see every day of your life, I can't imagine that it would be that frightening to you. You'd almost be used to it, right? I would imagine so. Anyway, but another one, which is, I wonder if this would work for a kid. I mean, this is technically a kid movie, A Watcher in the Woods, the Disney movie, Watcher in the Woods. It's a scary movie. I wonder if it's almost too serious for kids now. Like, I wonder if they would get bored by it. This is the big question. Like, would a kid be bored by these movies now growing up? Because I didn't see Watcher in the Woods growing up when I was little either. I saw watching most of the movies I saw that were kid horror movies. I was older.
Right.
You know?
But you know, it's funny that because Disney for a long time would make live action, you know, horrific tinged movies.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I had on my list Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Oh, there you go. There's one, the Ray Bradbury tale, right?
That's kind of scary, you know, but it's got kids in it again, you know, and you know she could relate to the kids.
I haven't seen that movie in years, and funny thing is when I rewatched it as an adult, I don't know if I got as much out of it. I think I have to watch it again. Like, I haven't seen it in a long time. So
yeah, I dug it a lot.
Did you ever see? I've actually never seen like Escape from Witch Mountain and stuff. Have you ever seen?
I know
those
I haven't.
Growing up,
yeah.
I actually want to see those movies.
That would probably be good too.
Like those, well, I remember another one that it's a little more in the sci-fi realm, but a movie that I used to love as a kid was The Black Hole. I don't know.
I
if
never
you
saw it.
You
No.
never saw The Black
No,
Hole.
I never did.
See, these are all these like Disney like live action movies, which you know I kind of like miss that era for Disney because like I think it's missing now with Disney's movies. They changed the company at one point in like the 90s. They started the Touchstone films, which was Disney as well, and they started releasing like comedies and R-rated comedies and stuff like that. And there were movies that came out from Touchstone that technically it was Disney, but it didn't have the Disney elements to it. You know what I mean? But you go back to like the classic Disney movies. Like, The Black Hole was a Disney film. It was marketed as a Disney film. A Watcher in the Woods was a Disney film, marketed. Escape from Witch Mountain. Those movies, like, there's those type of movies from Disney don't exist anymore. Right. I kind of wish they still did because right. I think there's a market for it. I think it could do really well. Which I'm actually, oddly, I never watched Goosebumps or stuff, but I'm kind of curious about this new Goosebumps movie with, like, Jack Black and shit in it. I'm actually hearing from, like, adults that have seen screeners of it, like, on some of the other podcasts I listen to, that it's actually a pretty fun movie. It's actually kind of a good horror movie. Like,
wow.
So I don't know. What else you got on that list, Mike?
Well, this is something that's going to be huge for a kid. We're kind of focusing on Alice, but
yeah,
kids in general.
Yeah, right.
Is what they're going to watch as a kid. What every kid watches is animated stuff.
Right. There you go.
You have and it doesn't always have to be horror. Like you could put on, just this October I watched the Garfield.
I haven't
special,
seen that in a while. The Garfield,
and of course Charlie Brown. Like
yes.
There's so many.
I watched that one.
And like those could be little gateway things too.
Gimme.
Yeah. Oh man.
When they go up to the door, they're just with a gag.
That's
gimme.
That's right. So they don't have to be scary, but they can get the spirit of something a little spooky, and also understand what Halloween is. But the big one for me as a kid was Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yeah, Ichabod and Mr. Toad, right?
Yeah,
That's the one. Which I literally just saw like a couple months ago. I never saw that. I might have seen it growing up. That imagery, it was in my head. The imagery of the Headless Horseman, it must have been on TV. I must have saw it growing up.
Did you ever see Disney's Halloween Treat? Which was basically a clip show. But when you're a little kid, you're just like, I'm seeing all these movies at once.
That I did see that they used to show it on TV.
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
And then that's where I saw the Headless Horseman thing from. It wasn't part of the actual movie that it was from, which was
Ichabod
and Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
Right? It was the two different stories.
Yeah, which is misleading because you have to sit through Mr. Toad's Wild Ride to get to Ichabod. But that's fine. It's as an adult. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is good.
Yeah.
But as a kid, you're like, where's Ichabod and the Headless Horseman, damn it? And
now, when they showed it on TV with the Halloween treats, did it have Mr. Toad one in it? Or
no,
was it just
Halloween Treat was only like...
It was
like,
just the...
You think it's the whole thing as a kid, but it's really like 30 seconds of like that and like all the monsters, like
it's just
Sleeping
clips.
Beauty.
It's a clip show.
They showed all the villains.
So honestly, I probably never saw the whole thing until I just recently saw it as one whole piece.
Yeah. Like they would show it all the time on the Disney Channel on cable when we were kids, but then they stopped when the Disney Channel changed and
it became something different. Yeah, it wasn't showing like the Disney movies anymore.
Right,
it turned into like more like just a network with TV shows and stuff
like
that. I remember when it was like Disney movies on the Disney network. I remember when they used to have the ABC. It was like Sunday night Disney movies. Remember?
Oh yeah,
and it was like an hour long, and they would actually cut them to fit the hour, which was so weird. Like they like 2-hour movies cut down to like an hour with introductions and commercials. So you're getting like a half hour of the movie, really, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But let me see. I was trying to think of another one. I mean, I did the Watcher in the Woods, The Gate. Now. What we were talking animated? Do you have anything else animated, or was that your main animated one? Okay,
that was my main deal. Yeah, that was my main event.
I don't know if I have anything animated that I could think of. Growing up, for me, animated movies that I saw, which we can go a little off the horror subject, we can veer a little off of it. Movies that I grew up loving were like Charlotte's Web was a movie I watched, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon version of Charlotte's Web, not the Dakota Fanning remake, which actually wasn't terrible. I'll admit that I actually watched it just to see what it was, how it was as a live action story, and it was pretty much exactly the same thing as a live action story. But that to me, that was a big one. The animated wise, I used to watch Charlotte's Web all the fucking time. That movie's still sad to me. It's still like I don't know. Maybe it's just because I grew up with it. But that one, of course, Mary Poppins was a huge one. But that was part live action, part animated. It keeps going back to Disney, no matter what I do.
Because Disney ruled the roost when we were kids.
Right.
There was no Pixar.
But let's say, okay, let's veer off a little bit of like the specific kid movies, so to speak. What do you think like could be like an adult horror movie that you think a kid could handle? That's what I was trying to think in my brain. That's
a good one.
Like an adult horror movie that I think a kid could handle. Well, we said the Monster Squad, but that was a little gauged. That was gauged towards kids,
what
right?
About I mean, again, you got to deal with a little bit of nudity or whatever. But if you're a progressive parent, you just explain.
They can handle it, yeah.
And the kids don't make a big deal of it if you don't make a big deal.
No,
of it,
that's the way it boils down to, yeah.
So I think like something like Night of the Creeps.
Yes.
Would work.
Actually, Night of the Creeps could really work. Night of the Creeps is perfect, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's got that kind of sci-fi. It's a little comic booky, but it's still visually interesting, and the characters. There's really no. Actually, now that I think about it, Night of the Creeps was PG-13 when it originally came out. I think.
Sounds about right.
It might have been, but I don't think, other than a little bit of like alien goo and violence, there's not. It's.
I think there's a pair of boobs or something.
Is there like a pair of boobs?
Yeah.
There might be a pair of boobs in Night of the Creeps. That's one that I think could work. You know, the first movie I ever saw as a kid, and I think I told this story when we did it's not similar, but it was kind of the idea where we talked about movies that influenced us and the projection thing. We did that podcast. First movie I ever saw as a kid was a horror movie, was The Shining, which I wonder if that's a little too harsh for like a 5-year-old. They might be bored with it, to be really honest with you.
Probably would be.
Probably be bored with it.
Yeah.
But I was around 10 when I first saw that one. Yeah, I would have been around 10. And that was The Shining was the first thing I ever saw, and I was scared to crap. My next door neighbor, I might have told the story, or I'll tell it quickly. But my next door neighbor, who used to babysit me and my sister, she recorded it off of TV because it used to come on network TV all the time. And my sister was younger than me. My sister was like 7 years old or some shit like that. And she was like totally cool with it. It didn't bother her at all. And they're like, we're going to make you watch a horror movie. So they made me watch The Shining. I sat there and watched The Shining. But that was what got me. And that started me with horror movies, though, because I got through it. And I was like, okay, I made it through this. I was terrified of the two little girls, though, like in the two little girls standing in the hallway. That was the hard. I had like nightmares and dreams. I saw those two little girls standing at the corner in my room at night. Like, yeah, probably not the greatest thing to show me when I was freaked out. But I remember my parents watching Poltergeist. This is when I would have been like around 7 or so, and I remember hanging out in the bathroom like, feeling like I was like dry heaving the whole time because and I wasn't even watching the movie. All I was hearing was that music like playing from the other room, the score, the la 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 la, like that was just like, that would send me over the fucking edge. I was like, oh my god, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
My mom was probably like, oh god, I just want to watch the freaking movie. Quit being a drama queen, you know. But so what do you got over there? You got anything else?
Well, here, that was the list I jotted. But here's one that you know, again, it's not really horror, but it's definitely horrific for a kid.
Okay.
And it's a really good test of what they can and can't take. Wizard of Oz.
That's a good one, actually.
Like,
and I watched that growing up like every freaking year because my dad was a huge Wizard of Oz
and
fan.
They made a big deal because it was on TV once a year. But the thing is with that is if you show that to a young child, like, that is a scary movie.
It's kind of scary still. Like, I mean, I don't find it scary like as an adult now, but like what with the winged monkeys and like the look of the whole look of like the creepy forest and the whole thing at the end with the witch's castle and everything. There's a creepy vibe to it. Like, I don't know. There's just something about. What I find creepy, which is really, really weird, is I find odd, like set, like 3-dimensional looking sets are a little eerie to me. I don't know what it is. There's something about that. It's like
unnatural.
It's unnatural. It feels weird to me. Like, and the Wizard of Oz has that thing going on where the sets are like, it looks like a set, and then they have the backdrop, and it's like there's like a stagey thing to it, but it has that weird 3-dimensional look. Which is funny. I actually have the Wizard of Oz in 3D, and it works. I bought the 3D Blu-ray because at the time my friend Pete wanted to watch it. I'm like, all right, I'll pick up the 3D Blu-ray. We watched it. I'm very surprised at how well the Wizard of Oz looks in 3D. I don't know if you've ever seen it in 3D. Like the way it works really well, and they did a really good 3D conversion for it because they didn't go crazy with it. It's kind of like modern 3D where it's literally just like the world. You know what I mean? But like when it goes into color and you can see that world in 3D, it looks like the old viewfinders we used to have as a kid. You know, and that's what it looks like when you're watching it. And it's like, wow, this is cool. It's a cool The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, that's a good one. That could definitely work.
Like for me, with that movie, and again, I was 5 years younger than my sister, but we would watch it every year, like you said.
Yeah.
And you know, I can remember back to maybe like 5 when we started watching it, and my sister. She'll hate me if she listens to this, but she was afraid of the Munchkins.
Yeah.
Probably because of their voices. But, you know, and like I looked at the Munchkins like, who cares?
Yeah.
But I was afraid of the Wicked Witch. First when she transforms through the window when she's in the tornado.
Yeah.
But then when she first appears through the smoke and I lost my shit. every time that was on, I loved the movie so much, but I could not watch that. My mother would have me go wait in the bedroom and call me back out afterwards. And I would still be scared of the witch throughout the movie, but that one scene when she first appears, I just could not take.
Just when the house is spinning and she comes in.
When the cloud of red smoke comes out. And,
in Oz when you're in color. Yeah.
Like I didn't like when she was riding the bike and turned into a witch, but I could handle it. But then, her first real appearance.
But it's that, you know what does it with that movie? It's that cackle. It's that when and she comes out of that smoke. I mean, it's bombastic. It's like she comes out like you know, and I don't know. There is something about that. Yeah. I actually used to find the thing that I used to find kind of creepy, and maybe it's because something about the black and white footage or the sepia toned footage, like depending on what you saw. When we were kids and watched it on TV, it was actually black and white in color. Years later, when it got restored, because it was originally sepia toned and colored, but they actually restored it to sepia tone in color, which is what people are used to seeing now, that sepia tone in color. But we saw it like black and white in color. That's the way it was aired on television. But the tornadoes, like whatever the effect that they used to create those tornadoes, that used to be really creepy to me as a kid. Like it just looked really creepy. Like when they were running around and like you could see it off in the distance, you know what I mean? It's just a creepy image. Like I guess it's a creepy thing anyway, a tornado, but it's really, I don't know, it used to freak me out as a kid. So yeah, Wizard of Oz could actually almost go as like a horror movie to a kid.
Wizard of Oz is a horror movie for a kid.
For a kid, it's a horror movie, totally.
And another one, same thing.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka, there you go. There are horrific elements in Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka is a very subversive kids movie, but that was like one of my favorites growing up. I used to watch that movie obsessively. And this was even before I knew about horror movies.
Right.
I used to watch Willy Wonka
as much as I could. I was never afraid of something that happened in Willy Wonka. Like that boat ride is really creepy.
The boat ride, it's like the thing that Marilyn Manson took.
But I mean, you could sit through it. But what really gets under like a kid's skin in Willy Wonka, and a lot of times you don't even really know what's happening until you're an adult. You don't understand that that's why you felt that way.
Right.
But like you watch what happens to all these kids, and it really is like these lessons are for kids. Don't be like these kids, and like it hits you, and you're like, oh man, I better be better at this. I better not eat too much. I better not watch too much TV. Like you listen to those Oompa Loompas.
Right, yeah, because like what these kids get put through hell, and like, you know, and you're like, okay, I better not fuck up, or
right,
or I'm gonna get dumped down a chute, or like, you know.
And Willy Wonka is a fucking bastard.
Oh, he's evil, man. Like the character is like very subversively like creepy, and there's like a lot of like, to an adult, there's some really subversive humor in that movie, because I always remember the what is it, wine is dandy but liquor is quicker, or something like that line, when they're mixing up stuff, and he goes, the guy's like, what is this, butter rum, butter pecan, butter,
it's like candy
is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
Right.
I'm like, whoa. That's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, so yeah, Willy Wonka is definitely, to a kid, that's got horrific imagery and just themes.
I love, it was funny because we're talking about Willy Wonka, and it just cracks me up to no end. There are just so many little, and I don't know if they were improvs on Gene Wilder's part or not, but there's a handful of just these random lines that he throws out in the movie, like when they first go through like to get into the chocolate factory, it's the hallway that keeps getting smaller and smaller, and then everyone starts screaming and freaking out. If you pay really close attention to Gene Wilder, he looks up and he goes, "Is that my soul I hear calling my name?" And I'm like, well, that's a creepy thing to say. And then what's the other one? The other one that used to get me is when they're all signing, and this is just stuff I picked up as an adult, when they have to sign the document at the bottom, and she says, the lady says something like, "Is there an accident indemnity clause?" or something like that, and he goes, "Never between friends." But it's these are like these throwaway lines that are like freaking comic genius. They're hilarious if you catch them as an adult. I don't know. There's more of them, but like those are the things that when I watch Willy Wonka now that I look for, like I pick up in that movie. That's a great one. I love that movie as a kid. I could watch that movie over and over again.
It is.
What do you think about Night of the Living Dead, the original black and white Night of the Living Dead? I mean, if we're going with the universal horror, I think Night of the Living Dead could be.
I think it's totally acceptable. Definitely, you will teach them a lot about human interaction,
Right.
and how to exist in a society.
Yeah. Would they get bored with it?
They
Is
would
a
totally
big
get bored
question,
with it.
I think, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of dialogue. It's very talky.
Yeah, I think they would definitely get bored with it.
Because the whole first half of the movie is just Barbara and Ben like in the house just figuring out what to do, basically.
You know what you could do? You could get one of the Elvira hosted ones. Put that on. Elvira comes on. She's that's funny, because Elvira's awesome.
Elvira's
and she's
pretty
funny
goofy,
as
yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
So, like, even if you get the one from her last series where she'll pop up in the window and say shit throughout the movie, then she's there a little more often, holds the kid's attention, like waits for the next funny thing. That would be a good way. Anything Elvira put out, that would be good because it's all public domain B movies.
Yeah, and it's fun, so it's there's nothing too subversive about it or anything like that. Actually, one that I just recently saw this year that I actually really liked. I don't even know if you may not have seen this movie because we were adults when this movie came out. But that movie Hocus Pocus. Have you ever seen it?
Never seen Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus is great.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that Bob Mendel and stuff. Like everyone was talking about Hocus Pocus this year, and I'm like, I want to see this stupid movie Hocus Pocus. Is this movie any good? Actually holds up quite well, even as an adult watching the movie. And I mean, it's just these three witches that they end up getting killed. It's supposedly modern day New England type of thing. They end up getting killed, and years later, these kids who just kind of break into this little house. This it's a museum where the witches were. They find their book their spell book, and they actually bring the witches back. And then the whole thing is the witches are tormenting this little town. But it was pretty cool. I was like, well, this is a cool movie, and that's definitely one you could show a kid because it's fun. It's really more of a comedy than a horror movie. But there's specific horror elements. As a matter of fact, Mick Garris he's one of the writers on the movie. I think he was the main writer on the movie. So it has that King Diamond. We were talking about Rocket Shock. That Stephen King Mick Garris thing.
Yeah.
Small town, it has that. It's very Halloween-y in the vibe in the movie, pumpkins everywhere and that heavy yellow, orange, and blue lighting throughout the whole movie. It's worth it. It's even as an adult, it's worth it. I really enjoyed watching the movie again. That was one I thought of. Hocus Pocus. I don't know. You got any more? Good. Okay, good.
So how about this? What do you think about this for a kid? Again, what's your age range comfort wise? Something like The Witches or Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal. I saw Dark Crystal when I was 7. So I think a 5 or 6 year old kid can handle Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
I really do. Dark Crystal's actually creepy though.
It is. It's really creepy.
the skeksis.
Yeah, man.
Those stupid things.
But here's the thing, and here's a big point that needs to be made about the upbringing of your child in a horror realm.
Yeah.
Is that movies like those, like Dark Crystal and whatnot, and movies like everything we've been talking about, Willy Wonka and Wizard of Oz and stuff, that's their training. That's how they're going to deal with some smaller fears.
Yeah.
So they can build up to watch these movies. So when you get all these uptight, parents groups who aren't even parents, who tell you that they're too young for this, and because you show them Friday the 13th, and you go, well, no, because she loves this movie, she loves Willy Wonka, and those are the steps you take to get to the horror.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I'm seeing that you kind of got to build a ladder to that point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Poltergeist is one you could show a kid. It's a scary movie.
It is,
but there's a big budget, flashy nature about it that I think a kid could handle.
Right.
A lot of kids saw Poltergeist at a pretty young age from our era.
Right.
Gremlins is another one. Gremlins is a perfect one. I loved Gremlins growing up. This is before I liked horror movies, so in a sense, it was a gateway to horror.
Yeah.
But Gremlins is a scary movie.
Yeah.
There is some creepy ass imagery in Gremlins, the tail end of Gremlins. When when the striped gremlin, where he escapes and he goes to the YMCA and he jumps in the pool. That image, when you see those gremlins coming out, like 1,000 gremlins coming out, like, that's scary. And these things are ripping apart the town. Like, the only thing, like we were saying about the gremlins is the Christmas story that Phoebe Cates tells.
Right.
Would that be?
Right.
But you know what? That's one of those, like, that's a judgment call. That's a, like, if the kid, well, what's that all about? Then you gotta explain it. That's a way to, teach your child about things, I think,
Right.
I even think that this is going a little too far, but I think once you get a kid that can handle it, I think kid can handle the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know. I don't know about maybe like 7, 8, getting closer to 10, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like, it's intense, but there's no nudity in it.
There's no nudity.
Nobody really swears in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's all just intensity and weird characters, if you think about it. Like, yeah, no.
I saw that when I believe I was 10. I was in 5th grade. So
Really?
yeah.
Probably scared the living piss out of you because it gets so intense at the end.
It was so off-putting, and it was off-putting right from the beginning. I might have told this story before, but it was because the hitchhiker looked like my friend's brother, and I was watching it with my friend.
Yeah.
So like his brother was a part of my current life.
Yeah.
And he was fucked up like that dude was too. And so, so that, like, for me, even at 10 was too much. And I mean, I saw The Exorcist at 8, and that was way too much.
Yeah.
But I still saw it. So again, yeah, all right, those 2 movies scarred me, but now I love them. So that's the debate.
That's the debate.
If it's a little too much, do you still kind of try to push it a little bit?
I know.
Is that child abuse?
I don't think it is, because, like, I think it's just like, that's the big question. Like, is it? Is that? I think in a modern day and age, people like to go around saying things like that, like, like, okay, I'm looking right at it right now. One of my favorite movies growing up as a kid is Jaws, and Jaws is technically, I think Jaws can fall into the adventure category more than horror, so to speak.
I have it in my
but
horror
it's
collection.
a thriller, horror, yeah, And I, as a kid, I loved Jaws. I was afraid of the parts with the shark coming out of the water, but I loved the movie. I enjoyed watching the movie Jaws. So even Jaws 2 was big for me. So,
well, here's the thing: is if you don't push your boundaries, it's for everybody.
Yeah,
you don't push
I
your
agree.
boundaries. You don't push your child's boundaries. They're not gonna grow.
that's true.
If you let them live in fear. If they see something scary and they don't deal with it,
Right.
they're never going to grow from it.
Right.
So I think it's okay to push their boundaries a little. I'm not saying put Texas Chainsaw Massacre when she's 5.
Yeah, and the way I spit on
know?
your grave at 4.
Right.
I mean,
You
I
know?
don't think it would. The thing about it is, and here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people even think about when you're saying things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like adult themed horror movies at a young age. I don't think kids even get anything out of that at a young age. I don't think it means anything to them. They might be frightened by some of the imagery, but the general plot and storyline of those movies, way over their head.
Right.
I don't think it would even matter to them.
Yeah, they're just watching to see what happens on the screen.
Yeah, what's going on? It's all visual at that point when you're a kid. It's all about the experience of something happening. You know what I mean?
And that's what something like a Jim Henson company will do so great. That's why the Dark Crystal is going to work them. Because
Labyrinth, there you go.
Yeah.
Labyrinth would work as well. Like those movies are
they're
perfect
for
kids.
kids, but they're really for adults too.
Yeah, they're entertaining.
It works for everybody.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, off of a horror, so the Muppet movies are perfect as well. I mean, I love the Muppets now as an adult.
Oh, me too.
I mean, she'll definitely grow up with all that shit. Like, you know what I mean?
What about other holiday things like you've got a lot of potential for growth with Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you put the George C. Scott one on.
I love that one. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite ones, actually.
That's the scariest one of all time.
And it's fucking scary. Like, that movie used to creep me out as a kid, but I used to watch it when it came out on TV. Like, the whole end with the ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it gets creepy. But it's a good gateway.
But even better, open the gate before that, the pre-gate, before you get to the driveway. Put on Muppet Christmas Carol.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
You like that?
You like the story?
Watch
well,
this
here's
one.
the story. Yeah,
You
check
can
out this
even-
version of the story.
You can even say it's scarier. It's It's
Yeah.
darker, but you can handle it,
Yeah.
Whatever. Be there, you'll be watching it with them.
Right.
I know you'll be watching
Yeah,
these movies
I'll
with
always
them.
be. That's all I ever do anyway. So it's like I'll be here.
You'll actually, when she starts watching movies on her own, when you're like in bed or whatever, you'll probably be proud instead of going, well, what do you? I'll get a monitor. You'll be, she's
I'll be like, hey,
watching movies on her
she
own.
picked that one out on her own, and
Right.
she's watching it. Like that's cool. That's I think is so crazy. Like because for me, like being a big movie fan, I hope like she's into movies. I can't imagine that she wouldn't be growing up around us, me basically. But it's because like, God, man, if I would have had that opportunity as a kid, if I would have had a parent who had a collection of like 2,000 fucking movies and a friggin' home theater set up and like, man, I would have loved to fucking watch movies. I love to anyway. That would have like really, like, I'd be like, wow, man. We'll go home, go through the fucking video library. What's this?
Yeah, to not be. I mean, because for us, cable was great as a kid because, yes, you were relegated to what they were gonna broadcast, but you found so many cool movies. But what if? That's a great point. What if we as a kid had our movie collections now?
That's what I'm saying. This is a different experience. Like, I never had that.
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting to see. Like, I mean, you've been here. Like, I have bookcases full of fucking DVDs and Blu-rays, and it's like, what is she going to find on that shelf? What is going to impress her? And I have a theory on this, all right? I said this to Katie, and, some of this might be a little too adult at a younger age, but it's very interesting, and it's almost like an experiment, because I'm very curious about this, okay? I have a section now where I put all the Scream Factory releases together, the new Scream Factory releases. I swear to God, at a certain age, that's going to be what appeals. She's going to see those covers and she's going to go, what's this? What's this? The boring fucking Photoshop covers that are on half the other movies that are in the fucking collection are probably just going to go right over her head. But those illustrations and those poster arts, the classic poster arts that we grew up, the VHS boxes that we saw growing up, I have a strong feeling that that's going to appeal. That's going to be like, what's this? I want to see this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like From Beyond or something like that. Like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, as a kid, I'd be like, what the hell? I want to see what this is. And I think that's missing too. I think that's missing from modern cinema in general, because
absolutely.
now it's like Netflix. It's like, what you hear is like my nephews and stuff like Netflix and all this stuff, and like they scroll through a bunch of pictures on a screen, and half the time they change the photos so that they're bad Photoshop. The ones that had cool posters don't even use the cool posters, so it's like
the poster, the need of the poster now is so much different at the theater experience, because now it's just you read everything online, you see the commercial on TV. You know enough about the movie whether you're going to see it or not. You don't even need a poster.
No, you don't.
And that's what sucks. Because you still need that poster to sell DVDs.
right.
And they're not putting that into it.
And what sucks a lot of times is, was for me, and this is the poster conversation because I'm a big fan of poster art. Sucks a lot of times is you'll get a really awesome like teaser image for like a movie that's coming out, something really cool that just doesn't like give away a lot about the movie. It's a great image and this and that. But then the real theatrical poster comes out and it's photoshopped heads on a background. And like they don't use those cool teaser posters for the box arts for anything. Like they're like, oh yeah, well we came up with this. This is kind of neat. I actually was listening to a podcast and they were talking about like how studios now, they view the illustrated posters, which are classic, as old. So if somebody comes at them with an illustrated poster, like for a modern movie, they're like, oh, this makes it look like an old movie. People aren't going to want to buy that. It actually have the idea backwards, I think.
Yeah.
It's backwards thinking, I feel.
Tell that illustrated thing to Drew Struzan.
You're right.
I'd see one of his. I would watch a movie that he did the poster for just because of the poster.
Because of the poster. I mean, there are movies from that era that like are terrible, probably in hindsight when you rewatch them now. Like movies like Ice Pirates and like I mean, but
wow,
I mean I probably like a little bit, but like I think he did like the Dreamscape poster and stuff like that as well. And like movies don't hold up as well as they used to when we were kids. But man, that poster art, you see that poster art, you're like, wow, what the hell is this? This is something. I want to see this.
And you made a really good point that the teaser poster is usually really cool, but because that's their selling tool is the cool poster, and then because there's no information out yet.
Yeah.
And then when the information comes out, they go, "We don't need your poster anymore."
I hate the fact that like now you get a lot of this, like companies like Mondo. There's a company called Mondo that does those retro posters and stuff like that. I hate the fact that like a new like cult movie will come out and Mondo will do like their limited edition like awesome fucking poster art for it, but that's not the poster for the movie.
Right.
That's just their own interpretation of it that they did. And the artists who make these movies have time. They're like, oh, I love the Mondo poster that was made for a movie, but that's not the poster that's used to promote the movie.
Right.
Some boring fucking whatever poster is used. Like look at Gremlins, for example. We're talking about kids movies and stuff. Okay. Everything you see for Gremlins now, whenever you see a artwork for Gremlins, it's always the gizmo shot with like it's like a shadow of like Stripe behind him. Okay, of like the mean gremlin behind him. I remember the poster for Gremlins. The better poster for Gremlins was the shot of the box. It's like a dark looking shot. It says Gremlins, and it's got the box that Gizmo came in, and you can see the eyes coming out of the box, and you can see Gizmo's hands coming out of the box. That's a classic fucking poster art. You see that and you go, what is that? Like, but I think that represents the movie better, because there is that element of like fantasy horror to the movie, and I think it represents it better. You see, like the Gizmo thing is fine and innocent, but the movie's a little dark at times, so it's misleading, I think.
And it preys on your fear of what is this foreign object, the creature.
That's the curiosity factor, and I think that would play most kids would do it. It's a curiosity factor. What is this? Like, and I think that's why those classic posters and the classic artwork would actually appeal to like a kid, even more than some of the stuff that we see now, because like, what is this? There's an element of mystery to it. It's not all in your face. Like, it's not 100% what it is. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's a theory of mine, but but yeah. So I don't know. What do you got, Mike? I think we're
I got one to throw at you.
Okay, good.
Maybe it's the last one.
All right, yeah.
But now, what are your thoughts? Like what kind of age group do you think? Because this could actually work in reverse. We're talking about gateways and whatnot. This could kind of work a little differently, as it did for me, and maybe even you. Twilight Zone the movie.
I love that movie.
Like, there's some creep, like, especially with the kid.
I think Twilight Zone the movie could be. I mean, for me, I don't know. I could be. Parents could be stoning me now after saying this, but I think 5-6 years old. I think Twilight Zone the movie could work for that.
I agree, and again, at 6, they're going to be scared when that animated rabbit.
That's the thing that used to creep me out was the rabbit and the whole part. Yeah,
and Dan Aykroyd when he turns into. But
yeah,
that's right at the beginning. If they can get through that, then it's low for a while with the Landis one and the but then then it ramps up again, and Lithgow. It's a great film, but I think it's mostly enjoyable, and those couple scares could help her reach that next level of dealing with it and understanding, and it's only a movie.
I think certain episodes of, say, the original Twilight Zone, the redo Twilight Zone, and even like Tales from the Dark Side, like maybe not all of them, you'd have to kind of like cherry pick,
right?
But there are episodes that I think could appeal to a little kid, like, and not scare the crap out of them, but pique their interest.
And that's the reverse gateway that I'm talking about. You show the movie first, and you like that. Oh, check out, because the episode's in black and white for the original.
Yeah,
black and white.
Black and white always kind of that's a tricky one. I think it's tricky.
Modern age too, especially.
It is, because everything's color now. Right. So it's only black and white if they want it to be stylistically black and white. Right. So yeah.
So I think that would be.
No, I got to agree with you.
Good,
Twilight Zone the movie. I always grew up loving that. I saw it on TV growing up, and like when I was pretty young when I saw it. I don't remember exactly what age, but I know I probably was around 7 or 8 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
And that like only thing that like you said, like the reveal, you want to see that part. You you want to what is it? What does he say? It's you want to see something really scary.
Really
that
scary.
thing.
Yeah. Cause,
and definitely, but the thing that used to freak me out the most in that whole movie was the middle story. Was the when he starts bringing the cartoons to life.
Yeah,
and you get really specifically that stupid like rabbit monster thingy that comes out of the thing.
It's so quick too.
Yeah.
What gets me the most in that story is was a Sherry Curry from The Runaways that played her with the mouth, the no mouth girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is, isn't it?
That is
yeah.
her,
I
yeah.
didn't realize that was her. Wow, I
Yeah.
learned something.
Yeah, but it, like
Yeah, the no mouth girl in the black and white hallway, like the section of the house. That's
and-
creepy.
Yeah,
that's creepy.
because they do that reveal and they don't warn you, and they don't make a big deal about it. It's just, oh, that's her room and whatever, and then they show her and you go, what the fuck? And then
Yes.
they go away and they don't come back to it and you go, what was that?
And it's funny because all of those stories, well, except for Landis's, I think the first one was a mixture of a couple of ideas, but the second one is A Good Life. And the last one, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, those are remakes of original Twilight Zone episodes. The last one was the one with William Shatner, which I don't know if I've ever seen the William Shatner version of it. I don't know. You probably seen
Yeah,
that one.
I mean, he doesn't play it as big as Lithgow does.
As Lithgow does. I have seen the It's a Good Life one, which is it's a lot different. It's the same basic idea about the kid that can, but they have something to do with the cornfield where he sends his family out, like he sends them to the cornfield like to banish them or something like that, right? I don't remember the whole details of it, but I think have you seen that one?
And that's
Yeah.
how that was actually a prequel to Field of Dreams.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, there you go. I like Field of Dreams actually. It's a good movie. Yeah. All right. Well then, okay. So I think I think we got some good stuff there. I think we pulled off a pretty good episode.
You
so.
got a bigger list than you thought.
A much bigger list than I thought, because really I only had like 3 or 4 titles in my head, and I was trying to come up with more, and I'm like, after I gave you the subject matter, I'm like, Jesus, can I talk about this for an hour? But no, there's plenty of stuff in there.
I have a parting question for you.
Okay, go, sure.
Have you picked, because she's going to be a baby, so she's not going to remember or even pay attention to what you're watching.
Yeah.
But what is the first movie you're going to watch with her as a dad? Put her in her little baby seat and whatever, and put it on and take care of her. Like, you're really the one watching it, but
I know.
she's in the room.
I know.
What's that first movie going to be?
I know. It's a really hard question.
And it doesn't have to be horror. It can be...
No, I think it probably won't be. It's weird to say. And I brought it up already. I think it might be Charlotte's Web. That might be the first one that I would think to say, hey, you want to see something? See if she'll actually pay attention to it. Like, it would be something like Charlotte's Web, or we said Willy Wonka. It would be one of those movies, because that's what I grew up with. Or maybe a Peanuts movie, or something like that. You know what I mean? I think at that age, it probably would be animated, because I think animated would keep their interest a little bit more.
Right, absolutely.
But yeah, that's probably what it would be. Because I've said this before, like, I plan on raising my kid on all the shit I grew up with. I mean, that's the way it always is. But yeah, I like Wizard of Oz is one we talked about. That could be it. But I almost think I would probably do like an animated one first. It would probably be like Charlotte's Web, or like not one of the specific. Like, there are the Disney ones, like, Dumbo. Actually, I love Pinocchio. That was always one of my favorite Disney movies growing up. That's one. But I almost think go for one of the outside Disney, because everything's always Disney, like, go out of the box, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe, I mean, I haven't watched Scooby-Doo in years, but maybe Scooby-Doo would be kind of cool for a little kid. I mean, a lot of kids end up liking it, and that's a gateway to horror, Scooby-Doo, because it's mystery thriller in a sense. Yeah,
it's a gateway to drugs too.
Scooby-Doo is a gateway. Okay, so that's how we ended up here. I'm gonna end up with a junkie child, because I'm gonna introduce them to drugs at a young age. No, that's but yeah. So I don't know. It would be one of those. I haven't really nailed it down yet, but it would definitely be one of those. I think definitely.
Nice.
All right, Mike. Well, it was good to have you here again this time, and I'm gonna try to have a December episode. If things are a little out of hand for December, there might not be a December episode. I'm sure we can probably squeeze something in there somewhere along the line. And it'll probably, I'd like to have Mike, it'll probably be me and Mike again in December. I'd rather do them with somebody else than just by myself.
You guys ready for Christmas horror? I mean, that's
yeah, I think that's going to be our...
Don't hold us to it.
Yeah, it's going to have to... I almost think it has to be for December. Right. I mean, it's December. We have built-in themes. Like, I think we have to go with it. Yeah.
Right, we made a
Christmas horror movie, so I think that's where it goes. We're like full circle now, like a year later. So, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and like as always, you can check out Roadkill Entertainment at jbyrne75.wix.com/Roadkill Entertainment. You can check us out on Facebook at Roadkill Entertainment. We're also on YouTube at Roadkill Entertainment, which you can actually pretty much watch everything Roadkill Entertainment has for sale for free right now for as long as we feel like leaving it up there, which is going to be at least till after the holidays. So yeah, check out You Better Watch Out, definitely, because that's holiday themed. And, you know, check out Hometown, check out whatever you want to watch of ours. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon. So